So this is Uber incarnation of neglect with 60% chance to suppress. But I got like an echoing shrine, so I was basically able to one-tap him. I think usually he's pretty tanky though. Here's like a clip of Uber Maven. I had like a acceleration shrine, so I was able to basically one-phase her. And here's a clip of me fighting also Uber Maven without any shrine buffs. So this is the DPS if you don't get any DPS shrines. That hit me. BS. Hey YouTube, this will be the final update to my Energy Blade life stacking build. I was able to clear all content in the game, and the DPS is really insane. So currently DPS is sitting around 34 million for the melee hit, and for the projectiles it's 13. So it's roughly close to 50 million. And if you guys don't know, if you stand correctly with strike, you can actually double hit. So it's probably close to like 95 million DPS without shrines in a perfect condition. That's with Grafts and perfect conditions, obviously, I'm talking. And conflicts are really just, you need to stack up your power and frenzy charges and your rage. I guess the rest is pretty standard. There's not really any PoB warring going on. And you can also use like Wild Lightning Strike, which also has an additional like 16 million DPS. But the crazy part comes when you have like decent shrines. Like if I have like echoing with acceleration, lightning strike goes to 260 million, which is pretty crazy, and you can see it in eclipse too. And the projectiles have like 100 million DPS, so we're sitting at like 360 million. And if you stand correctly, you do like 700 million damage with just these two. And yeah, you can play around. If you like add like some more shrines like brutal shrine or massive shrine, it gets to some pretty crazy numbers, I would say. And most of the time when I'm mapping, I have like all of these shrines up. So that's how I'm able to one-shot like all the tier 17 bosses. And that's how the damage looks so ridiculously high. So you can start off this build without any currency. The build itself only requires 10 chaos to start off with, but can scale really well into late game. And I'm going to be providing 3 POBs, one leveling POB, because that has been missing so far for people who want to start and play this build. One POB for a Mage Blood version, which is my current setup, and one POB for people without a Mage Blood version, but it's also Endgame. Now, I will be talking in this video about almost every single item, the choices I made, about the skill tree a little bit, and I'm going to talk about alternatives and other unique items I haven't included, such as nimis. I'm going to show some more clips of me fighting some Ur bosses, and at the end I will also show a little bit of the crafting guide. So first I would like to talk about leveling quickly. If you're really starting off with absolutely no currency, I would recommend Poisonous Concoction. But if you can bear a little bit, or if you can expand a little bit of currency, you can check out the loadout in the PoB. I have like a level 1 to 12 where I use like a bow character to level. I think that's the fastest way. And afterwards at level 24, you can transition to Energy Blade. From there on out, it's a pretty smooth ride. You just follow along the tree, just click down at the bottom left, select the tree. And after level 50, you can probably follow my day 1 YouTube video, POB, day 2 and day 4 updates, and keep on improving your character. So that's about it for leveling. If you have questions or anything, you can just write in the comments or join me on Discord. Let's talk about like the endgame version. I'll first go over the grafts, because grafts are pretty important and it basically determines a lot of your damage. So what is required for sure is like the ash graft, summoning ash graft, I already talked about it, and a jolting ash graft. So the jolting ash graft is a little bit strange. You need level 34 overcharged sinews to get the 3% more maximum attack damage per jolt. And if you can afford it, you should go for jolt grant, but this graft grants like 4% crit multi. Generally in PoE, it's always better to have crit multi over crit chance, so if you can, get that one. If you guys feel very squishy, if you guys feel like you are dying quite often, I would recommend to switch to a Heart of Flame, because this jolt does make you take 10% increased damage taken. Other than that, I switched to a Gull now. This is really good because it gives 50% duration of shrine buffs. So they will last, instead of 20 seconds, they will last 30 seconds. And with the Runegraft of Warp, they will last 40 seconds. So basically, if you equip the Skull, you get a huge bonus to your shrine durations. It's pretty good, but you can also replace it with a rare helmet, which makes you tankier. Then Untouched Soul, I went with a Tenacity and Additional Curse, but later I would say it's actually not that needed, the Additional Curse. I went with like a Crusader Influenced Ring, which gives Curse and Conductivity to get the use of this Additional Curse, but you lose like a suffix and it only gives like 10% damage, so it's not that great. And the way you want to craft this ring, I will explain later on in the video. Then I have like a ring which has some lightning res and some more res and life. If you're like super high end, you can replace this with a nimis if you want to. Then I have like some pretty crazy gloves I crafted myself, which has like tier 1 life, tier 1 chaos res, tier 1 accuracy and attack speed. And then I have like an exquisite pierce and +1 to strike. For boots, also pretty insane. I got a fractured base, and then I have tier 1 int, tier 1 chaos res, tier 1 life, and tier 1 ms. I'll also show you guys how to craft these boots later on in the video. And yeah, these are just the flasks from Mageblood. You can check them out, POB. Regarding the skill tree, I got like a better lethal pride with Intimidate on hit. And I have like a Thread of Hope now, a massive one, where you can allocate all these nodes for free. So this is a really efficient one, and it also overlaps with the Lethal Pride. This is pretty well known technology, so you get all these nodes for free. And other than that, I think it's about the same. I added a few tattoos. So I added a couple of tattoos with increased mark effect, and one of them is increased spell suppress. So right now I'm sitting at 100% suppress chance as well, without lucky suppress, so that's pretty nice. And it took out some aura nodes and invested into the reduced mana cost with the mana mastery. Maybe one more thing to mention is that I moved my 6-link to my chest and used Runegraft of the Jeweler. So basically it gives 10% increased damage for each unlinked socket in the two-hand weapon. So this is a node which gives 50% increased damage. If you have like a lot of money left to spare, you can transfer the 6-link to the chest and get like a 2-link on the weapon, so you get the 50% increased damage. But that's about it. One thing I notice a lot of people are struggling with when I look at their POB is the accuracy. So if you press C, the accuracy should be 80, 98, 9900, somewhere there. Mine is not so high because I have like 40% more accuracy rating against unique enemies because I'm mostly bossing at the moment. But if you're mostly mapping, I would take like the accuracy node at the bottom. Just make sure your accuracy is not at 80%. And I guess that's pretty much about it for the build itself. I'm going to be showing some more clips of my Uber fights, and at the end of the video there's like crafting video or like crafting guide for different pieces of the gear.
The appointed time is here. Victory will be ours.
Annihilation. The fires of 1,000 suns.
My mana is gone.
You do not have the strength, hatchling.
That may be, but I am not alone.
How pathetic. Disintegration. Cleansing. The fires of 1,000 suns.
Me so.
Incineration. The fires of 1,000 suns. Annihilation. Disintegration. Cleansing.
So I can't really afford it right now. It's much cleaner, maybe much cleaner.
Time controls.
Oops, not good.
My irritation is growing. A cascade of pain. Stand still. Take this.
Ooh, that was close.
Stand still.
That hit me. Some BS. So currently the easiest way to craft such a ring is to use an L and then change the influence on a horticrafting station and hit it until you get a Crusader. I got lucky, I hit it right away. And then you want to do Reforge Caster until you get something you're happy with, I guess. I just click until you see conductivity on hit in case you want to go for like a double curse setup. It only gives like 10% more damage though, so you have to be aware of that. And I will probably continue the rest in Craft of Exile. So let's say you have like a ring like this with either intelligence or accuracy tier 1, and you might have some, let's say, some prefixes in here which are not useful for you. What I did, but this is not really recommended, this is pretty high budget crafting. What I did is I locked the suffixes. Suffix cannot be changed. And then I used a Veiled Chaos and was hoping for suffix. And if you then unveil, you can get like minimum endurance charge. I got pretty lucky at this time, but it can also, what can also happen is if you slam it with a chaos, that you get a veiled prefix and you fill up the suffixes. That can also happen. And then you get pretty bad stats overall. So it's like a 50-50 whether you hit the veiled prefix or veiled suffix. But that's how I did it at least, and it is pretty risky, but it can work out. If you hit, let's say, maximum life instead, let's say you hit like tier 1 life with a good suffix, something like this, you can then just craft minimum endurance charge from a crafting bench and you're going to be completely fine. Also, if you hit like accuracy, let's say you hit like, instead of that, you hit tier 3 accuracy, that is also fine instead of the last endurance charge. You don't have to have a minimum endurance charge, it's just helpful. Something like this, either you hit int or you use a veiled chaos orb to force the minimum endurance charge. Let's say you were able to force it, so suffix cannot be changed, and you're able to force it, you unveil it. In this case, we got unlucky. Probably take the lightning chaos rest, but if you get lucky, you get an endurance charge. You can use a beast called Wild Bristle Matron, and this Wild Bristle Matron will make it that you get a meta mod, and in this case, the only meta mod on prefixes is suffixes cannot be changed. I'll show you guys, called Wild Bristle Matron. And that's a crafted meta modifier to a non-unique item, and the only meta modifier for a prefix is suffix cannot be changed. This beast costs around, I think, 0.6 or 0.7 divines. And then you can go to the harvest bench and reforge life. And if you're lucky, you will hit the 1 life eventually. This takes quite a lot of attempts. Usually, I would like say 8 to 9. In case it fills up, you have the YOLO or null, which is again super risky. So you might want to settle for tier 2 or tier 3 life in case you want to craft this ring. The ring is pretty expensive to craft, and I don't recommend it unless you are super rich. Regarding the gloves, there's like 2 ways to craft it. Either you recombine them or you craft them. So the easiest way to craft these gloves, if you get a base which has fractured chaos res. Once you have fractured chaos res, you will use deafening essences of zeal and spam it until you hit accuracy tier 1. So you would use that and make sure this is fractured chaos res, you use zeal, and then eventually you will hit your accuracy rating and your tier 1 attack speed. And what you want to do then is again use a Wild Bristle Matron or use Eldritch Chaos to force tier 1 life. So in case you want to use another Wild Bristle Matron, you just reforge Harvest, you reforge life, and do it until it hits tier 1 or tier 2 life. In case it fills up, you can use like an Eldritch Chaos. So you make Exarch dominant, and then you use an Eldritch Chaos to reroll the prefixes. This is also you can also use Eldritch Chaos to look for tier 1 life. Usually it takes quite a long time though, and I'm not quite sure what is better, but these would be like 2 ways. Also, probably Wild Bristol Matron might be slightly more reliable. And this is how you craft the gloves. The boots are in the same principle. So I will just copy my boots in here quickly, power them. The boots you wanna spam, I wanted int boots on an evasion base. So I used essences of fight, and I spammed them until I hit a desired suffix. You might want, like, you're happy with tier 1 fire res, or you're happy with something else. I was looking for chaos res, so I spammed it until I hit tier 1 chaos res. For time purposes, I will just move it. If you want to go a bit cheaper, you could go for hybrid base and spam chaos res essences and look for tier 1 int that has like double the weighting. But I wanted like an evasion base, 2 evasion base. But yeah, you'll add up something like this. And again, you wanna do suffixes cannot be changed with Wild Bristol Matron and Reforge Life until you hit tier 1 life or tier 2 life or whatever you're happy with. I mean, you guys can see this is currency consuming, so you have to spend at least 10 to 20 divines per slot if you really want a good one. Otherwise, you can try to buy one off the market, but if you want like a really all tier 1 boots, you have to spend quite a lot of money for it. Let's say you are happy with tier 2 life. What you do now is you can again have to do, you could block something. For example, I would block movement speed for now, craft movement speed, and then exalt it once for like a random stat. And then what you want to do is again use a Wild Bristol Matron to do suffixes cannot be changed. Use a Wild Bristol Matron. And then you want to do a Veiled Exalted Orb. And in this case, you got super unlucky. It removed the life. So you have to start over with Reforge Life. But if you get a slightly luckier, you can remove one of the 2 mods. So it's like a 2 in 3 chance to succeed. And then you unveil, and it's almost always move speed guaranteed. Like it's almost always there. If you don't care about like the extra little bit of move speed, you could also just craft move speed and call it. Like what you could also do is just craft 24 move speed and call it a day. That's also completely fine. So this is how you would craft these items. And if you guys need any help or if you guys need any other crafting information, let me know.